Hey guys, Brett here, connecting from UbiCentral, and recently I've had the opportunity to play Watch Dogs Legion for around 8 hours. In total, I've probably played this game for almost 20 hours over the past year and a half, so I wanted to make a final impressions video before the launch of the game. When Watch Dogs Legion releases on October 29th, I'll be sure to do a full playthrough and have a review up shortly after.
We interrupt this broadcast to give you a very important announcement. This video is sponsored by Nordvpn. Do you want to protect your data from a company like Bloom? Of course you do. Nordvpn is a program that protects your data and privacy when surfing the web. It's compatible with Windows, macOS, iOS, Android, and Linux. Not to mention, it comes with a 30-day money-back guarantee and 24/7 customer support. Use code UbiCentral and get 68% off NordVPN, which works out to only $3.71 a month. Head over to nordvpn.com/UbiCentral to learn more.
Watch Dogs Legion is a truly unique game. When it was announced originally, I didn't know what to expect. Play as anyone seemed like a gimmick, the RPG elements were pointless, and the tone appeared to be all over the place. Despite all that, I still had fun with the game when I first played it at E3 2019. The gunplay was solid, switching between characters was interesting, and London was beautiful. But you could still tell the game needed a lot of work if it was going to release in March of 2020. Thankfully, that original release date never happened, and Ubisoft Toronto got another 7 months of development time. During this period, they decided to remove the leveling system, up your team limit to 40, change the UI, and add a variety of unique playable characters that weren't in the original builds. The Watch Dogs Legion that's going to release later this month is completely different from the version at last E3, and it's for the better. This game feels like a perfect mix of Watch Dogs 1 and 2, but it's also unique enough at the same time. Let me explain. Watch Dogs 1 has a darker tone with solid gameplay and takedown animations. Watch Dogs Legion has that same tone depending on who you play as. Not to mention, you can play through the entire story as Aiden Pierce, so if you really want that Watch Dogs 1 experience, there you go. Chicago was also very dark and rained a lot, and London isn't that much different. This game truly looks stunning when it's raining with RTX on, and it's very reminiscent of that first game. Meanwhile, Watch Dogs 2 improved on things like driving, hacking, and parkour. The driving in Legion is very similar to Watch Dogs 2, and in some cases, it's slightly better. When it comes to hacking, at least in the open world, there are less options. However, when it comes to combat, Legion adds a lot more, such as the AR cloak, shrouding ability, hacking massive drones, and having a spider bot with takedowns. Parkour is also more similar to Watch Dogs 2, but in my opinion, it falls just below that threshold because I feel like the map wasn't made for it as much. There are still areas though, and it never gets old seeing a granny struggle to climb over an object or fall down a pipe. So yeah, Legion takes a lot of the amazing elements from Watch Dogs 1 and 2 and improves on it, or at the very least switches it up. Speaking of switching it up, the main selling point of this game from the start has been play as anyone. Play as anyone from a gameplay standpoint is incredible. Anyone you see in the open world can be recruited. Some are easier than others, and they all offer something unique to your team. There's a variety of characters ranging from spies, construction workers, getaway drivers, musicians, street artists, boxers, police officers. The list honestly goes on and on. Each character has a daily schedule, a family, and of course, unique ability. To recruit someone, you'll just have to do a favor for them, and if they really dislike DedSec, they'll need a bit more convincing. These recruitment missions are fairly simple, but I feel like there's a decent enough variety in objectives and locations. Obviously, if you start recruiting a bunch of characters, the missions are going to get repetitive, but it's not that big of a deal, especially when there's a character that you just really want on your team. If you want a super in-depth video on my gameplay impressions, I actually uploaded a video on that a few months back. It's definitely worth checking out as I still stand behind my thoughts 100%. Play as anyone is seriously something special when we're talking about gameplay. The story though can really suffer from this depending on who you play as. I've seen characters with terrible voice acting that felt over the top, and it ruined the story immediately for me. Because honestly, this story is pretty dark. I would even say it's darker in tone than Watch Dogs 1. So if you have a character who's more serious, the story flows a lot better. I know the marketing always paints Legion in sort of an over-the-top manner, and it definitely can be when it comes to gameplay, but the story is touching on heavy topics. I mean, London was bombed, people lost loved ones, and now a private military group is taking over, and not to mention there's 0 Day. I do think there's a chance they can pull this story off, but again, it really comes down to who you play as. If your entire team consists of grannies, this story isn't going to be properly conveyed. And I know that's fine for some people who really don't care about the story. As far as the actual campaign missions go, I think there's a decent variety, but nothing super crazy. There's hacking puzzles, reconstructing data, going into restricted areas and stealing data, things that you've come to expect. Missions can be tackled in a variety of ways, but I feel like stealth is usually more preferred. I mean, you can literally access restricted areas if you have the right character, which makes things way easier. And there's also vents and access points for spider bots, which again is more stealth gameplay. But with that said, if you want to go into an area and start punching enemies or using melee weapons, they will fight back using melee weapons as well. Enemies will not pull out a gun unless you do. Speaking of guns, I have to say my favorite operator so far is the professional hitman. I love just going into an area, guns blazing, and watching these takedown animations. They are so good and deserve all the praise. Side activities in Legion include darts, boxing, street art, and the parcel fox delivery. I definitely recommend playing the boxing/fighting activity so you can just learn the combat system. It's nothing complex, but we've never had one in Watch Dogs, so it will take a little time to get used to. The street art activity has areas for parkour, so I recommend checking it out for that reason alone. And the rest are just kind of meh. I feel like I'm going to play them once or twice and never really touch them again unless it's for a recruitment mission. In Watch Dogs Legion, you can also liberate each borough by doing tasks like taking out a VIP, taking photographs, and sabotaging equipment. When you complete these tasks, you'll have a big final mission and then push Albion out of that area. You'll also get other rewards like a specific character, clothing discounts, and things like that. There's definitely plenty to do in Watch Dogs Legion, but I would have liked to see something like digital trips return. Also, Driver San Francisco would have been way better than the Parcel Fox activity. I mean, they have vehicles that have Driver London branding on it, but I think it's just a small reference, and that side activity won't be returning. Thankfully, Watch Dogs Legion will have a lot of content post-launch. Starting December 3rd, we're going to get 4-player co-op with brand new missions. There's eventually going to be new characters, online invasion, new game plus, and single-player content. For all this stuff I just mentioned, you do not need the season pass. But yeah, just some random notes I have. There are a ton of clothing options, various collectibles in the worlds, and an actual photo mode. If you feel like the game is too easy, you can turn on permadeath and play the game in hard mode. I'm definitely going to do a playthrough with permadeath on at some point, but probably not right away. There appears to be a lot of interiors, and I barely encountered any issues during a work in progress build. As far as some disappointing aspects, I really wish clothing shops had interiors. It's not a massive deal, but it just should be in the game. You can also still shoot tasers through glass doors and windows, which doesn't make sense. There's no trains, even though there are train tracks, and the London Underground. Also, I was really hoping for multiple hideouts, but unfortunately, there's just going to be the one, and it doesn't seem like you can customize it. At the end of the day, though, I am super impressed by Watch Dogs Legion. I really think if you're a fan of Watch Dogs 1 or Watch Dogs 2, you're going to enjoy this game. Hopefully, the story pulls through because there's a lot of potential, especially with 0 Day. But again, from a gameplay standpoint, what Legion does is something truly unique, and it's just fun. I was super nervous about this game at first, but after spending this much time with it, I can't wait to jump back into London on October 29th. As always, I want to thank you all so much for the support. If you haven't already, be sure to subscribe because I have a lot more Legion content on the way.
Thanks again to Nordvpn for sponsoring this video. With companies like Bloom and Titus expanding, protecting your data has never been more important. You've seen how your data can be used, and thankfully Nordvpn can prevent that from happening. With Nordvpn, you have access to over 5,000 servers in 59 countries, unlimited bandwidth, and double data encryption. As mentioned earlier, Nordvpn is compatible with most operating systems including Windows, macOS, iOS, Linux, and Android. There's also 24/7 customer support if you ever have any questions or concerns. Don't forget, there's also a 30-day money-back guarantee on top of everything. If interested in this offer, use code UbiCentral and get 68% off Nordvpn, which works out to only $3.71 a month. Plus, you get an additional month free. Head over to nordvpn.com/UbiCentral to learn more.